Hey there everyone, it's Quackalex here, and welcome to my 5 breeding tips in Dragon Mania Legends. So before I start with anything, I'm just going to go through the very basics of this. The way that you get dragons in Dragon Mania Legends is either by going to the shop and then waiting for the timer to finish, and then you hatch your dragon in the hatchery, and then you put it into a habitat. Or, another way that you get dragons, which is going to be the most common method that you're going to use, is by putting in 2 dragons that are allowed to breed with each other, so that then you get an egg out of it, which gives you a dragon with 2 types, such as a smoke dragon, which is fire and wind, which you get by breeding a fire and wind dragon, obviously. The first tip I have to give you is that make sure when you're breeding that you always have a specific dragon in mind. So you know that with the dragons that you have, you can only get a specific dragon out of it. Say you only had an earth and a wind dragon. So you're going to be getting a dust dragon out of that most commonly because it's the type at the top. Like the little letter that you see in the top right hand corner in the shop of each dragon will tell you what kind it is. So commons are what you'll get the most, uncommons are obviously more rare, rares are decently difficult to breed, and then there's epics, which you'll need a dragon with 2 elements and a singular element to breed those, and then there's legendaries. You can check which dragons you need to breed by looking at their types. So say you wanted a tribal dragon. I'm going to give a more advanced example there. You see how it's a fire, an earth, and a wind type, which means you're going to need a dragon that's an earth and a wind type, and a different dragon, which is a fire type. So for this you'd use a dust and a fire dragon to try and breed this guy. It's just as simple as that, and that doesn't mean you're always going to get this guy, but it makes it a lot more likely that you will, since there's only very, very few combinations that you can get out of using those 2. And the second tip that I have is breed all of the common dragons first. So what I mean by this is all of the ones in the shop that you can buy, fire, wind, energy, water, metal, void, just keep leveling up until you have all of those as your basics. And then try and work on breeding all of those 2 together so you get the dust dragon, lava dragon, ice dragon, snow dragon if you want. And just make sure you have all of the commons and possibly uncommons. I'd say go common, uncommon, rares in that order. So then you have a much better chance in future of when you're going for an epic. You're like, say for this regal dragon, you need wind, metal, and water. So if you don't have a wind and metal dragon, how are you supposed to breed for your epic? Like, epics are a far off thing and you shouldn't worry about them until you have all of the basic dragons. Simple as that. My next tip is save up and upgrade your hatchery as quickly as possible to level 2. This is important because if you're going to go for simple breeds such as, say you want to get that tribal dragon again, if you breed your dust and your fire and you don't get the tribal dragon, you're going to have a really, really low hatch timer. And so, say that's a 2-minute timer, you can go back in 2 minutes and try again. Whereas, if you tried to breed for... What's a void dragon? Say you try to breed for this Ragnarok dragon with the void element. That would have a hatching timer of, like, 7 hours plus. So you could only try to get that every 7 hours, which is a pain in the butt, to say the least. And so, it really is best to go for things like the tribal... What's some more? Clownfish, elemental, and geyser are some of the simpler epics and rares that you can go for. Like, what are a few others? Like, the clay dragon, say, that's earth, water, energy. That's not too bad. It's when you get into the metal and the void where the timers start to skyrocket. And obviously if you have VIP, that's going to help because the timers will be lower. But if you're going to be saving up for like your hatchery and other stuff that you want, that might not be a possibility for you. My fourth tip is that you should go for the epics that will help your team. So you're going to want a team that's well-rounded, and in my case I have void, metal, energy on my radiant. I have my clownfish, which has 3 completely different elements, water, earth and wind, and then I have my tiger, which is plant, fire and energy. So only one of my elements overlaps. But if you want to go for a team, make sure it's as well-rounded as possible. So you will be wanting to go for epics that have plant quite quickly, plant and water. So coral dragons, clownfish dragons, regal dragons, those are the really good ones because the water type is really, really good, and so is the earth element. They are going to be your main priorities if you want to form a team. My final tip for breeding dragons is when you're trying to breed dragons, try and level them up as high as you can, because the higher level that your dragons are, the more likely it is that their offspring's going to be rare. So if you try and breed for an epic when your dragons are less than level 10, chances are you're just gonna come out with an uncommon or a common. But I'd suggest probably putting your dragons to about level 10 to 15 minimum, because then you're a hell of a lot more likely to come out with epics in the long run. And obviously you can't always get special dragons like dragons of the week and things like that, but just leveling up your dragons makes it so much easier, and I assure you that you will get a lot more epics than if you just keep trying with really low level dragons. But yeah, that's all for this video. I do plan on doing more of these kinds of tips, trick videos in the future, but I'd like to hear what you want. Like, what do you want to know more about? What do you struggle with understanding in this game? And I'll try and clarify. My next one will probably be on battles, or I'll do another 5 tips on breeding. But that's up to you guys. Tell me in the comments below. Like if you like this video, and enjoy yourself. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.